Good evening, my name is Benjamin Brainard, and I'd like to discuss with you an underrated topic in world history, namely the use of propaganda in relation to submarine warfare during the First World War. This topic is somewhat overshadowed by its bigger brother, the use of propaganda during the Second World War. But I think it's essential to study the First World War in order to understand the foundational beliefs and prejudices that are pulled into the Second World War. So, in order to do this, I examined 4 articles. All of them have these flashy titles that are a product of their time, and they span from 1914 to 1916, and they come from 2 sources, primarily from the Manchester Guardian and also from the New York Times. The first article was entitled, "Desperate German Attacks Result in Heavy Sacrifices of Life," and it was published in 1914. The article describes this valiant efforts from a British cruiser that rammed a German U-boat. And what's unique about this article is that although it conveys this overwhelming sense of British victory, it subtly implies that the British Navy isn't up to the task of sinking German U-boats. The second article I looked at was entitled, "Germans Attack a Hospital Ship," and it came out in February of 1915, just a few months later. And it argues that the waters around where this hospital ship sank are safe because the German Navy hasn't heard from their U-boat, and that the British have arrived and have secured the area. This is somewhat interesting because it doubles down on this subtle belief that the Germans are heinous because they attacked a hospital ship, but that the British Navy has everything under control. The third article I looked at came from the New York Times and was published in November of 1915, so at the end of the year. And it was entitled, "Berlin Defends Attack." And it's unique because it talks about how Berlin chooses to defend a Austrian submarine's actions. So this Austrian submarine sank a neutral vessel, and the Germans have stepped in to defend it. And the article is subtly implying that only the Germans would defend such a heinous act, because even the Austrians, who owned the ship, have refused to acknowledge that the ship is in the right. Now, the final article that I looked at comes from 1916 and is entitled, "German Submarine Attacks on Neutrals." And it looks at how the German government has reached out to Norway after they inadvertently sank a Norwegian fishing vessel. But the article also talks about how the Germans have sunk numerous British vessels that are, at least in the eyes of the British people, neutral vessels because they're not military vessels. So what they're doing in this article is implying that the Germans are attacking all neutral vessels by implying that they are in fact neutral because they're not wartime vessels. Now, what I think the combination of these 4 articles shows is a subtle progression of anti-German sentiments through a gradual vilification of German submarines and their use during the First World War. If you'd like some more information, I've posted an abstract with this video. Thank you and have a great day.